Rajat. Let's start.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you, Paridi. I'm glad to be here. Hey, Yankee. Nice to see you. Okay, now I see a lot of people turning on the camera, which is great. Um, so again, really excited to be here, guys, and really want to I can talk about this for hours, but what I really want to understand is what kind of challenges that you are facing and how can we help them elevate it. So it's a great time if you have questions to ping it in the chat or just unmute and talk about it. And I will be more than happy to give you examples and try to be as comprehensive as possible. So now coming back to myself, so my name already you know, Rajat. I'm currently working for Accenture Strategy in London. And I started off my career back in 2015 when I graduated from Indian School of Mines. Now it's in IIT Dhanbad in petroleum engineering. After that, I was working for Gain Oil and Gas. It's a very traditional oil and gas company. Worked there for 5 years in operational and strategy role. But after 5 years, I was like, okay, I just don't want to be stuck with oil and gas. I want to explore other industries as well. And that was one of my biggest reasons why I applied for INSEAD and only INSEAD. And thinking back, I feel that was a very foolish decision. I should have applied to more schools, but never mind. I just got lucky and got in. Again, it was an amazing year, made a lot of friends, learned a lot, and finally got a couple of job offers as well. But I finally decided, so I had job offers from Amazon, a couple of consulting firms in Dubai, and Accenture Strategy in London. But I finally decided to join Accenture just because of the kind of work they were doing and the location. So being in London has its own perks, that you are in center of the world stage, you are talking to US people, you are talking to Singapore, I'm traveling to Dubai, Amsterdam every week. So the work culture is really great. And that was one of the reasons why I chose it. And it has been around 3 years in Accenture for me, and more than 3 years working for MBA and Beyond as well. So Shantanu, the founder, was actually my consultant back in 2019. And after that, we kind of hit off, and I've been helping him since then. And I really like doing it, and we have worked with countless people. So that is a bit about me. Over to Saloni. And at any point of time, if you have any questions about my experience, please feel free to ask.
Just a bit of more introduction on Rajat. So Rajat has one of the best success rates when it comes to INSEAD, and Shantanu and I were talking about it the other day. That's like what's going on, like almost everybody who almost works with Rajat, everybody gets in, at least gets an interview invite, most of them. So I think Rajat just knows INSEAD so much in and out, and I really like some of the candidates that you worked with. I've read the essays; they resonate with the values so much. So I absolutely can see INSEAD oozing out of you every time you're pouring your heart into the candidate's application. So that's amazing. So if there was one tip that you had to give to Saloni and probably future INSEADers, because Saloni is going to be starting, I think, September.
In another 5 months, yeah.
So maybe like first we'll listen to Saloni's introduction, and then Rajat, you can give her a quick tip, whatever you need to, before you start.
Sure, I have a lot of them.
Brilliant.
Yeah. All right, Saloni, over to you.
All right. Good day, good evening to everyone. Good afternoon, morning. I don't know where we all are. But super happy to be talking to everyone today. I wish this Zoom interface was better because I really cannot see everyone's face. So I'm just trying to move around with my camera and trying to see everyone's face. But yeah, at least I can see Paradhi and I can see Rajat. So a few faces. Really happy to be here today to talk to all of you. I have received my acceptance not more than a month ago, so I'm still sitting with all the feelings and trying to process it all. Now that it is all, the whole application season is done and I'm through, it still feels quite unreal, to be honest. But yeah, a little bit about me. I've primarily worked with startups for all of my corporate journey, which is now a little over 5 years. Primary education. So I'm actually an engineer by background. I did my computer engineering from Manipal, graduated in 2019. But I always joke about this, and I also made a joke to Shantanu. I probably would have done it a million times to other people, that if I had to save someone's life and they told me to code, then that person would die. I'm sorry. There would be no saving grace. And I think that there's a lot of things I learned through my education, but being a software developer or a coder was not one of them. So I think at the base of my work, I think I've always known that I want to be on the business side of things, and I want to be in the technical business field. That's what I've been doing for the last 4 years. I've been working with various startups, primarily in the retail tech industry, fairly niche. So I work with Coca-Cola, Unilever, Kimberly-Clark, and the likes of them, helping them digitize their retail processes. Because now we are in the day and age of AI and of technology. All of these companies now want to jump on the bandwagon of, trying to, everything that's legacy and everything that's rudimentary now needs to get digitized. So this is a great time to be in this industry. I currently work as a customer success manager at a startup. Been here for a little over a year. I really like the work that I do. So honestly, for the longest time, convincing myself that I really should do or need to do an MBA was the hardest part. I waited for over 5 years because I couldn't justify it to myself. What's missing? Why do I need to go and do an MBA? I like the work that I do. It's not limiting me in any way. And I do see a bright future here. But a lot of the reasons where I was like, okay, am I always going to be in India or do I want to be in different places? Another thing was that having worked with startups and also having done my undergrad from Manipal University, I had a little bit of this thing that I don't have a strong brand on my resume. None of you should think like that, but I did. I thought like that, and I was one of the reasons why INSEAD was probably at number 1 list on my universities was because of that. I was like, I have to apply to a tier 1 university, and I have to be able to prove it to myself that I can, get into a university like that. So last year I finally decided, and surprisingly, Pardi and I ended up speaking at a very critical point. And she made it very clear to me that if I didn't put my heart and my soul into the application, I was already running on borrowed time. So again, Shantanu worked with me. We spent a good couple of weeks figuring out my application, and I think he really made me feel that I was moving on an authentic path. And I think more than anything, I probably will keep saying this word and again, because I feel that your application probably needs to be authentic. That is all what's going to help you set yourself apart or stand out amongst other people. And I think we were honestly able to do that which is why we are here today. So that's a little bit about me. Rajat's gonna have so much more knowledge to impart because he's been through the experience and I'm yet to go through it, but I'll try to answer all of your questions to the best of my abilities.
Thank you, Saloni. Rajat, one quick tip for Saloni that we can sum up whatever she's done in school, and then we jump on to questions. Yeah.
No, definitely. I think one tip that one of the alumni, a very senior alumni, 20 years after INSEAD, who came to INSEAD and told us was, when you're at INSEAD, the one thing I don't know what you will learn, consulting, statistics, economics. I don't know what you will learn, but you will learn one thing: how to prioritize things, right? If you don't learn that, the experience is waste, right? So three things that you will have to prioritize when you are in INSEAD. First is studies, obviously. Second is travel. And third is travel or social, whatever you call it. And third is sleep. So you have to decide between these three what you want to do and just go and do it. So what I did was I prioritized sleep, and because it was around COVID, so I didn't have a lot of option to travel. So but I did social and studied a bit less. But yes, sleep is important.
I like that.
Got it.
But I know people prioritizing social and study as well. But I know, like, I hear it from Shantanu, among the three essays, he also prioritized sleep and then everything else,
Yeah,
like,
I
in
get it.
between the other.
Like I've seen my classmates coming to class at 8 a.m. directly from a party, right?
Okay.
So I've seen it all. So you can do that definitely, but everything, like, you will not regret whatever you do after a year. It will be an amazing experience, anyways.
I hope so. I'm
Thanks,
excited.
thanks, Saloni. All the best, Saloni, for your journey.
Thank you.
All right, we'll start with the first question that we've received. What's one thing applicants often overlook but is critical for INSEAD and HEC applications? Rajat, probably you're the best person to kick this off with.
Oh,
And
sure.
can add.
Amazing. Yeah, I can do that very easy. So I think what Saloni said in her, like, when she was talking about being authentic. So I do firmly believe that as well. Like, you need to be authentic. So what do we mean by authentic, right? So one critical aspect that I've seen countless applicants, like, I've reviewed so many essays, right? So what I've seen is that most of the applicants, that they overlook the importance of being specific in their application, right? And how will you be specific unless you're authentic, right? So they will just talk about, okay, why do I want to join INSEAD? Because I'm very passionate about cultural nuances and working with different nationalities, right? So if you are writing that statement in your essay, it doesn't mean anything, right? The best litmus test that I feel that you should do on each and every line that you're writing in an essay is it something unique about you? Is someone else can write that same sentence who is in a very different industry, different nationality? Can he write that? If he is, then something is wrong with that line, or something's wrong with that paragraph, and you need to change that, right? I can actually give you a very quick example. So I had a candidate who was an investment banking advisor, right? And a lot of clients were in Japan or Singapore. So he wrote one thing around, okay, I have a lot of culture. I know a lot of cultural nuances. I've worked with very different cultures from different parts of the world, including Japan and Singapore, right? It's a great line. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but like, I was in oil and gas. I was working with a lot of people from Japan and Singapore or US who were working in my who was working in my oil field, right? Like in India, I could have said the same line. Like, how are we separating that? So what I will recommend is like a renewed or a new version of it. Like, let's say during my 3 months in Japan, I worked alongside a lot of Japanese colleagues, and where I felt that, okay, the direct feedback that was very uncommon. People just does not say thanks to you. So you need to learn about learn about how people are doing gestures to you. So these kind of details. This is what makes your application authentic or being specific, and that's what will separate you. If you are just writing a very overall story, like AdCom will see right through you, and that's the thing that separates you out as well. So yeah, that's from me on this.
Thanks, Rajat. Saloni, do you have any inputs or anything you want to chime in with?
Yeah, I completely resonate with what Rajat said. Along the same lines, I think one of the places where I had good learning was that nothing on my application or on anyone's application should be something that you are not convinced about. If you read that line and you're like, that's not, like, it doesn't speak truly. I mean, if you're trying to bluff, okay, yes, we accentuate some of the things that we've done, yes, and that's all right. Like, that's branding, that's marketing. But if you are writing something where you feel that you yourself are not able to convince to yourself, then what's going to happen is that even in your essays that will come through, and the place that they will be able to make it out or catch you is in the interviews very easily. If what you have written isn't reflecting or isn't showing. So I also feel that one place where I brainstormed with Shantanu a lot was, the place where he was like, why is Saloni a good fit for INSEAD? And I kept saying that, wouldn't every candidate say the same thing? Like, wouldn't everybody say similar stuff? And he kept prodding me in order to, speak freely about my personality, or even some of my weaknesses or my drawbacks for that matter, just to, just so that I'm being true to myself. It's not all glorious all the time, right? We are all human at the end of the day. So I would say that as long as you can, every part of your application, as long as you can justify yourself that yes, that's true, that's, if I have written that, I can stand with conviction that that's true, I can even probably back it up, right? So as long as you're doing that, then your entire story or your application is going to get stitched really well, and you'll be able to, bring out nuances very well, even in the interview section.
Thanks, both of you. But since we were touching upon global exposure, both of you, like Rajat, you touched upon it a little bit, and it is a big deal for INSEAD. And I think, like, even though that was the last question in the series, but I thought we can go in a trail. Let's understand, what does INSEAD really mean by global exposure? And probably, like, all of you, everybody who's bringing out a good application this year for March deadlines, it's super important to align with that important value at INSEAD. So whatever Rajat and Saloni have to advise you on that, please mark their words and try to integrate that in your application, because that can make or break your chances at INSEAD. So yeah, Rajat, thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure, Pariti. And I think definitely, I'm not sure if you know, but there are 4 things which INSEAD looks like, evaluates any applicant, right? Let me just tell you right now. One is your leadership experience. Second is your academic achievements. Third is how can you contribute to INSEAD, and fourth is international experience, right? In my class, almost 40 to 50% of people, like out of 500, had dual citizenship, right? So that kind of international exposure is what you will get at INSEAD, right? And they want people who can thrive in that environment. So what they really want to understand is whether you will be able to adapt in a multicultural environment, or you will just stick with your own nationality and yeah, you will not talk to anyone else. Like, even in my group where I have to do all the small projects, academic projects, there were 4 people, and all 4 of them from different nationalities: Singapore, Italy, and US, right? So this is the kind of environment you will get there. Now, what kind of global exposures are there? You understand why they are looking for it, right? So one common misconception is that, okay, if I haven't gone outside India, then, or like if you are gone outside your home country, then it's a done deal, I cannot get into INSEAD. This is completely false, right? If you have gone outside, it's definitely very useful, but it's not a red flag or a complete no. I myself didn't have a lot of international experience. I went one in Singapore or Dubai for a 1-week project, and that's it. That's all I had in my international experience. Okay, and I still got it. So what kind of global exposures that you have? Okay, so the top is definitely you being outside of your home country for some time, right? It can be a month, it can be a couple of years, it can be a week, anything, right? And so that is the top type. And if you have done that, you must have some really interesting stories at your time outside, and that is what we can use, right? The second one is that you didn't went outside, but there were a couple of people from outside who were working with you. For example, the example that I gave, like a lot of people from different industries or different nationalities were coming back to where I was working, and I was working with them on a regular basis. So I did have an international experience, but it was more in my home country, right? The third one is the kind of the offshore experiences that you get, right? Like when you are working in India, but you are working for a American client or a European client, right? And you are dealing with them on a regular basis. So you are kind of having a interaction. So these are the 3 different kind of global exposures, and we can work with all of them. Okay, obviously but the impact is also very will always be higher if you have gone outside and worked outside or even studied outside in your undergrad, right? I remember so many people who studied in UCL London or UCLA in US who were part of my cohort, right? And they were from India. So INSEAD definitely looks for some specific profile. I'm not denying that, but there were a lot of people like me who didn't have any kind of international experience as well. So it's all about how you explain it to AdCom that even though you don't have an international experience of a traditional sense, but you do know how to work with people from different cultures or nationalities, right? That is the common aim that they are looking for. So yeah, that's...
Thanks, Rajat. I'll just build up on that a little bit and then over to you, Saloni. So there's this, just for all of you while you're building your application, this might be a good book to pick up by Erin Mayer. It's called Culture Map. She's one of the professors at INSEAD, and she very profoundly talks about what working in an international environment really means, and you can really pick nuances from there to match, because that's exactly what INSEAD's value is. I feel like it's INSEAD's international exposure as a value instilled in that one book, and it's a great book to read anyways, because you're going to be working internationally after INSEAD. So Rajat, did you do any of the courses with Erin or
I remember, I actually don't remember a lot of my professor's name, but yeah. I sort of remember the name, but no, I didn't do. As I told you, I wasn't in a lot of studies. I was sleeping and just traveling.
Yeah, that's also organizational behavior, because also, like I was asking, he also did not. So I've only known like one or two people who did, but I think it's like everything she talks about is the value that INSEAD is really looking for. So any of you is into reading, please pick that up, take some ideas from there while working on your application. Saloni, any thoughts that you would want to, how did you project international exposure in your application, if you want to highlight that?
Sure. So, okay, I think Rajat has pretty much covered the whole land of the lay. Of course, like he mentioned, it's brilliant if you have had the opportunity to be elsewhere, to be outside, and to have worked with different people. But the really just the essence is that in most of our workplaces, we are always surrounded by people from different cultures. You may be working with certain managers of yours or supervisors, or your peers may be based out of different places. As long as you're working in MNCs, you're working in corporate, you'll always be surrounded by a certain type of people. So I would say that when you are thinking about international exposure, make a list of all the things that you can use if you feel that you're feeling short. I mean, of course, for someone who's had prolific experience, if you've studied outside, lived outside, been outside for multiple projects, gotten the opportunity to travel through your work, that's amazing, that's brilliant. You can recap that in your application and your essays. But even if that's not the case, you can always, on different projects, probably some project was for a different region, then another project was for a different region, or you had someone from a different country working with you on a certain project. Such things like that, I think you can utilize all of those to understand behaviors and patterns of people from those different countries, right? And generally, you can also do a little bit of research, right? Like, say, for instance, Southeast Asian countries have a different pattern of working, and they are a little more, ourselves included, we are the ones who go a little above and beyond, bend the knee for the white supremacy. We tend to do that, right? Whereas the other European culture is slightly different, so is the American culture. So you are already aware of that, and in this day of internet, I think we are always exposed to a lot of international exposure. So I think you can make use of all of that. Try to bring out certain behaviors and patterns that you have observed anyway while working with your peers, your friends, your relatives who are based out of your family that's based out of India, people who've moved abroad. You can take examples of all of this. And I think that should make up for, in case you feel like you're falling short.
Thanks, Saloni. Thank you, both of you. We'll touch upon the next pillar or value, Rajat, that INSEAD holds very close to them is leadership skills. So how can applicants showcase leadership without traditional management experience? So right now, I can already point out 4 or 5 candidates I've spoken to personally. They are individual contributors, but they have, of course, great experience. They've taken initiatives, all of that. But yeah, how would you advise that they talk about it in their application?
Like, okay, so I think it's a great question, and I've seen a lot of candidates struggling with that as well. But what I personally feel is leadership is definitely not about the traditional roles or the positions that you are given, right? It's not that, what do you call that, titles, right? It's not about that. So I have personally feel that a lot of people, a lot of applicants I've talked to, they were like director or executive director in their home business or like the family business, and they were not doing anything like that. So hard, like what INSEAD or HEC is looking for, like for in the other sense, this leadership experience is actually very common quality that all the MBA schools are looking for, right? And what they're really looking for is the ability to take initiative, influence, or the ability to drive change without having an official title to do it, right? If you are able to do it without a title, that is what a leadership quality is, right? That shows you that you can be a leader and you can like mobilize troops when you have the title, right? So a very simple example actually I can give you from my recent like last project that I was in Accenture, right? So we were working for this a major oil and gas company. We have like 10 people working for us. We just started the work, and it was a long project, like 2 or 3 months, right? And it was around the December period, so everyone was taking leave at different times. And as soon as we started, there was an analyst who saw that okay, he was an analyst who was working across different work streams, and he saw that there were a lot of inefficiencies and people taking the leaves, right? And what he did was like he just went back one day at home and came back the next day and created this leave tracker that people will just put in their holidays, and like so that we the leadership or the project manager can manage the time of people and understand okay when people are taking leaves. And it was a great tool, like it definitely helped us a lot, and the client was happy with our work, so it went all great, right? So it was an analyst, right? He was just 1 year out of his undergraduate, and he did that, and that is a really great example of a leadership story. So I'm saying to use that story, but I'm sure that you must have done a lot of work in your 3 to 4 years or 5 years of experience, and it's just about thinking about that and writing it all down and having those brainstorming sessions that we do generally with applicants, and you will be able to get really great leadership anecdotes.
Thanks, Rajat. Saloni, do you want to chime in?
I think very similar. I believe that everyone in their role, when you are, whether you're an individual contributor or you have indirect reportees or direct reportees, you in different capacities have to be a leader, or at work all you have to do is you have to bring that out. Of course, over a course of 3 years, yeah, there are going to be certain mundane times where it was business as usual and probably nothing innovative was done. But any place where you've been able to sprinkle some innovation, you've been able to sprinkle like Rajat said, initiative, in the sense that steered the team in a right direction. Even if you were not the manager leading the project, your ideas, your thoughts make you a leader. So if you bring those out, I think you can showcase leadership fairly well. And I think also the ambition and the ability that you are ready to take on whatever challenges you face. If you've done it in your current capacity, you can definitely show that post or in INSEAD or post INSEAD, how you would become a great or a better leader.
Thank you, both of you. I really like how Saksham is taking notes. That's lovely. All right, we've got another question. Maybe we should take Nishant's question first. I'm not really sure if I'm getting the question right. So Nishant, you can also unmute yourself and ask. Otherwise, I'll just repeat. So there are several myths about studying abroad, say in unaffordable foreign language gap. But one thing I do get asked a lot, which I'm construing from this, that let's say if you're graduating from INSEAD and HEC, how do you manage the job situation in a market where the language is a barrier? So probably, I mean, there are of course a lot of myths around it. They're fairly international schools, but yeah, Rajat, maybe you could throw some light on that. How did the class get placed, and what really happened during your time at INSEAD?
I mean, yeah, sure. So, I mean, it's a great question, and I expect this question like in the minds of everyone who is planning to apply for MBAs, right? So, I've been talking to a lot of people as well, and I hear that constantly, and it's a very fair question, right? There's no denying the fact that the economy is not great around, like not just Europe, US is not doing great as well, and even if you think about consulting firms, I've never heard McKinsey firing people, right? They are right as of now. So not a great time for sure. Okay, but let me tell you a situation when what was happening when I joined, right? So I got my admission in January 2020, right? And then COVID happened, like as you all know, March 2020. So I was like, okay, I'm not going for an MBA in middle of the COVID, so I delayed it by a year. And because I was afraid that okay, like people are shutting down jobs, like the stock market was crashing, everything was happening at that period of time, right? So I delayed my MBA from instead of joining in September, I joined in January next year, right? So I became a 21D instead of 21J, right? So that was my thing. But after 6 months, when 21J was getting placed, what we saw was that the impact of COVID-19 had already started coming down, and the companies had fired so many people in that 1 year, they didn't have anyone to actually do the work now. So they were hiring madly, right? So it started showing signs in 21J, but when I was graduating, it started going crazy. And after 6 months, the next batch was graduating, there were 25 people from India who got placed in McKinsey London office. You see, so it's a huge number. Like it doesn't happen, right? So the reason being that they were so scarce of resources, they just overdid it. Now, like as I'm telling you the whole story, like 22 July something, that's when they did this overhiring just to mitigate the effects of COVID. Now they had done the overhiring, so again the cycle is going on that they are again reducing the number of people they're recruiting. But that's why it is a great time for anyone who is considering doing an MBA to do it. Okay, so that's just giving you a macro scenario of what is happening right now. Okay, so what generally happens around INSEAD and HEC? These are pure international schools, right? They are not French schools, right? It doesn't matter whether it's in Paris or whether it's in Fontainebleau, where everyone is speaking French. You're not looking for jobs there unless you're a French national or you know French, right? INSEAD does ask for you to get an A2 level of certification for the third language, but I'm very sure that you will never be able to speak properly in that language in 1 year, right? So you will not get a job there, and you're not looking for it. Where you're looking for is what you're looking for is the kind of exposure INSEAD offers you, right? So when I'm sitting in France, I'm not giving interviews for France. Like I was giving an interview in London, I was giving an interview in Dubai, I was doing Singapore, Malaysia, US. Like this is where I was interviewing, right? So it doesn't matter. Like I know it's difficult to understand that, okay, INSEAD is a French campus, Singapore campus, that's because there are people recruiting there. No, it's just to make sure that they have a presence in every continent per se, right? That's it. That is their whole aim. And so they just want to create a empire like UK where the sun sets and sun rises kind of a thing, right? So they have started a campus in San Francisco now as well. So it doesn't matter. Okay, so I think this is what you were asking. And there was component on the financials as well, right? Okay, yeah. So on that, again, it doesn't matter, right? Like the amount of loan that you're taking, I don't know, what is this, what is the fees right now? My time it was like 9,000 euros.
100K.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about 100K.
They have increased it now.
Every year.
So it was 89K for me. I got some scholarship as well, so a bit less. But yeah, 89K euros. That's like 70,000 pounds, and I paid that back in like 1.5 to 2 years. Right? So no loan in 2 years, right? And you have an amazing asset now, and yeah, even like the best way to pay your your INSEAD fees is the joining bonus that you get from the companies when you join, right? Half of your fees will be a joining bonus. I know like companies like even Accenture like pays almost like 40,000 to 45,000 pounds as a joining bonus. So you are just paying half of it at the start of, like, as soon as you start working, right? So it's a non-issue. But again, I'm not saying that everyone gets it, right? You have to be like, even if you're joining INSEAD or Harvard or Stanford, you cannot be in a bottom 10% or 20%. Like if you are not doing anything, if you are just, yeah, exactly. If you're not doing anything, then don't expect a lot as well, right? Like they will not magically give you a job. So if you are a decent person who worked towards placements or networked enough, you will get a decent job and you will not have a problem with respect to financials at all.
Thanks, Rajat. I can see, of course, people are asking then why wouldn't you go to an English speaker? Yeah, Saloni, please go ahead if you want to add.
I just wanted to add one thing that starting this year, they've removed the third language, this thing, Rajat. So it's only 2 languages now.
Oh,
it's,
really?
Yeah. So that also means they're not offering those intensive learning classes, the ones that they used to prior to the course. Now there's only a business foundations week and then the course starts after that. So this has also changed, which means that you honestly don't need to learn French. I mean, it becomes personal at this point of time.
Yeah.
I never learned French as well. Like I learned Spanish. I don't know.
Yeah. Spanish as well. But yeah, I mean, it's a choice. Any language you can learn.
Yeah.
However, what I would also emphasize, if you guys want to do a little sanity check for yourself, go to LinkedIn, pick any country you want to, a job opportunity, or people. Just search people, put INSEAD as the school or university, and see how many alums you'll find there. It's the most international school that you can find, and HEC is also fairly international. You'll see people in London, Middle East, everywhere. So they are the biggest feeders in UK and the Middle East, and Singapore, of course, because of the Singapore, also INSEAD, because of the Singapore campus is going to be Southeast Asia as well, and US. Now to the question that Kohina is asking, but then isn't it better to go to English speaking country? I mean, it really depends. Do you want to go to a very international school, or you want to go to US, or you want to be in London? Of course, if you want to be in London, you prioritize going to LBS over INSEAD. If you see yourself in New York, then you'd go to Columbia or Stern. So it's a very personal decision. If you want to go to a global community of a school where, at any point in time in your life, you want to access another market, I feel INSEAD definitely is a great choice, especially when looking at the state of the world where, economic situation can anytime shift. You want an alum base, which is very much available across like wherever you want to be. So that's just my thoughts. We can take up the next question from Geeta. I have a question on post-INSEAD opportunities. I see a big chunk, and very valid question that we get as well. I see a big chunk that goes into management consulting. Why do such less people get into tech companies after INSEAD? Do you have thoughts on that, Rajat? Yeah.
I mean, okay, so a bit of this statistics is skewed as well, So if there are 600 people or 500 people that are joining INSEAD one batch, out of them almost 150 people will already be in consulting, and they are sent to INSEAD as a sponsored candidate from their companies, right? So in all, those 750 people will be going back to consulting, and INSEAD adds them as a recruitment in consulting again. So that's what they do. So it's a bit already skewed. Second, but I will not say that it's not common for most of the class to go to consulting. So again, I had a job offer from Amazon, I had an offer from consulting, right? But I chose consulting because I wanted to not commit to just tech at that point of time and wanted to experience different industries, right? So even though 150 to 200 people who got into consulting in my batch, almost like 30 to 40% of them also had a tech offer, right? So, but they chose not to go there. So that is again one point. Third, all these major tech companies, right? They are not very specific to particular schools. So they do have, like for example, Amazon, Facebook, and Google, and yeah, these kind of companies do come to campus, but their needs are like MBA schools are not the only place where they recruit, right? So they're not like consulting where they are the main feeders for their staff. So the number of tech jobs are always on a lower end, but by saying that if you have an interest in tech, I can guarantee you that you will get some sort of a tech role. Like it can be a scale up, it can be a big tech, it can be anything, right? So people who had interest in tech, I know people who came to INSEAD with sole aim of getting into tech went into consulting, right? Because it's such a lucrative job. Just after an MBA, you get such a fat bonus right after, like right before you join. So everyone changes their mind at that. But if you are really head straight at okay, you want to go into tech, you can definitely.
I to be honest, like Rajat, what you just mentioned, and even if people go with a pure intention to be a product manager post MBA or whatever, and Shantanu shares his story because it's like there's everything is happening everywhere. Like okay, this Chateau, McKinsey is coming, Bain is coming. Trust me, I could not believe Shantanu did not go for a single meet or like a dinner, and everybody was after him that why are you not going? It's free drinks, free dinner, and you have to meet. And then why are you not applying for consulting? It's like, no, I just have to be very loyal to my post MBA goal because it's so hard.
That's what I'm saying. You need to be very headstrong that okay, no, you just want to do that or you're not doing it, right? So that's it.
But yeah, just to add here, like we personally know a lot of product managers getting out of INSEAD, going to FANG, even startups in Berlin, Amsterdam, booking. There's Miro, and there's a lot of people joining across the globe, the big tech. So that's definitely happening. But of course, INSEAD being known as the consulting school, what Rajat just shared, that happens. Okay, so I think we'll take, yes, Yankee, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, yes. I have a bit of a specific query. I actually have around 12 years of advertising. I'll just give you a brief overview of profile so that you get where I'm coming from quickly. So I have around 12 years of experience in advertising, and I had my own startup as well as a wristwatch label. And now I'm looking to join one of these B schools in Europe. So for me, I have quite a bit on my plate already. So to sit out and again prepare for GRE, is there a way around? If you have 12 years of experience, I usually understand 5 to 6 years is what it takes in terms of experience. But I have 12 years. Is there a waiver that these universities offer? A, and secondly, I did speak to a couple of universities directly, and they seem to push for executive MBA as well. But I have been really I'm quite sure what I want to do is go back to academia, park everything aside, and then either pivot to the consulting side of things or do my own startup somewhere in Europe. So I mean that's the basic concept in terms of, is there a possibility of waiver? And in case there isn't, I probably will have to, I think the only way to go about GRE for me would be I'll have to quit my job, sit myself down for a couple of months. What are your thoughts about how would you approach something like this in the case that I currently thinking?
I get your point, Yankee. I think it's a fair question as well. But there's no single right answer here, right? Like during COVID times, most of the schools did GMAT, GRE, right? Some of the schools continue doing that, some of the schools stopped doing it. And what I'm saying is, I like being 12 years, I will say you are almost at a borderline when if you want to go, you should go this year, right? So I had a couple of friends who were at this level, right? They got in and everything went great, that's fine. But I have seen after 13, 14 years, schools will.
Oops. I think it's either Rajat's battery or he'll just join back in a bit. So I'll let him continue when he comes back.
Sure.
Until maybe we can pick it another question I will quickly pick up. Let me see.
One thing is that I would say, Yankee, you should give a diagnostic test. I know people who have aced GRE with no prep. Like there are some people who are the math is really easy. If you have a propensity towards math, then math is really easy. English might require a little bit of effort, but I think it can be done. I mean, I was stupid and I chose GMAT and I then stuck it out till the end. But I think if you give a diagnostic test, and what if you land at a 320 randomly, you just have to take it up a few notches and you might just be able to do it easily.
I mean, you'll be surprised, Saloni. The only caveat over there being I'm actually a biology student. I'm actually a dental surgeon. But then I mean, stroke of luck, I started advertising, and for me, math is completely off the charts. But
okay.
But English actually is the strong suit for me. That the comprehension part comes really easy.
That's a really great story, Yankee. Right? Dental surgeon converting into a advertising guy and then started their own company as well. They will love you. So just get a score. Any score will
score. That's what I was also going to say. This is already underrepresented, so you should totally leverage that, Yankee. But try start somewhere. Unless Rajat, Saloni, you have any more input, Yankee, we can talk in detail because it's more like a profile evaluation if you want to go in depth.
Yeah, I think just Rajat had some point he was making.
Yeah, because we lost you, Rajat, that time.
Oh yeah. Sorry, what I was saying is, I told you that a lot of people, like a lot of these colleges waived GMAT during COVID. Some continued that, some avoided that. But the key reason why they want GMAT, as I told you in the start, one of the key factors is academic achievement, right? They need to understand that they want to generalize, like normalize people on a scale. That's why they ask you for these standardized tests. And it will be very difficult for them to do a waiver just for you based on experience, because your experience doesn't tell them about your academic achievements, right? Unless they have a specific offer at that point of time around waiver, GMAT waiver, I feel that it will be extremely difficult. So what I will suggest you is, like, just take a test. Like, don't prepare anything or prepare for a week or something. Take a what I did when I was working as well. I just took 2 weeks off my job and just did it, right? So do something very similar and see what you get to, and then we can have a conversation. Okay, does this gives you an opportunity to at least apply and then see what they talk about.
That really helps. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. So there's a lot of questions floating around age as well. Like I'm 31 and there's somebody like I'm 32. So Rajat, Saloni, thoughts on that? What do you think? How does INSEAD see that?
I think average age at INSEAD is 29 years, right? So like that's an answer to you, right? So it doesn't matter a lot. There are people who will be 25 coming to INSEAD. There will be people who are 34 with 2 kids coming to INSEAD. So it doesn't matter a lot. But again, like if you are at either end of the spectrum, you have to explain. You have to give them the reason why you want to do an MBA at that stage. If you are 29, you don't have to give that reason. That's it.
So while you're working out your YMBA, this is for all older candidates here. Focus also on YMBA now. And yes, people go through. I personally know somebody who went to INSEAD at 34 with a kid. Like Rajat said, there are a lot of people like that. So it's very like they don't have bars like that. There's great, partner program as well, where your partner will also be very much welcome at INSEAD. They can potentially attend all the classes if they are interested, and just that they won't get the degree with you. You can't share the degree with them. but yeah, I mean, INSEAD is super partner supportive. All right, I'm gonna pick another question. What's the typical GRE GMAT scores everybody's asking? So, right, like again, there's no right or wrong answer over here, but depends on your candidature. For Indian males, we do, of course, suggest now 665 plus is what's being suggested, but on the classic, 710, 720 is something that has worked easily just to be in the safe space. Depending if you're coming from a unique background, let's say if you're a veteran like Yankee, you're a doctor, dentist, diverse background, it can go off a little lesser than that. For GRE right now, what I am seeing of the candidates who've received, it's 327 plus. But having said that, we also have admits with somebody as low as a 630 on GMAT in Classic Edition and a 316 on the GRE. So again, it really depends. I do not think INSEAD is super picky on GMAT and GRE scores as long as you're matching the values of the school. They've really admitted a lot of low score or low GPA candidates as well. Rajat, do you have thoughts on that?
No,
Yeah.
same thing. I think Pradeep took really great care of it. But just to give you a real life example, I have candidates from ranging from 630 to 750. 630% got in, 750 didn't, right? So it doesn't matter a lot. Like if you are able to explain them, like again, talk about your academic achievement, why you got 630, but your academic achievement is really better, you can understand. Like they are just worried whether you will be able to complete the course or not. They don't want to extend it beyond 1 year because it will be a lot of cost to them. So they just want to make sure, okay, you can pass all of their courses, right? So if you show that, that's good enough for them. INSEAD, HEC, these are like very international schools. They have very different values from US schools. And they are really looking for the experience, for the diversity of their experience. That's it.
Yeah. I have a very interesting question coming in here from Geeta. And yeah, all finance folks ask this. Why is it recommended to apply for Jan intake if I want to get into finance? I'm assuming PEVC space after MBA from INSEAD. Rajat, do you want to throw light on that?
Very quickly. So the key difference between both the rounds is when it's a D batch, basically you will end your course in December and start in January, right? So for example, I started in 21 January and completed my course in December. If I would have joined in J batch, I would have started in September and completed my course in May, right? So the key difference is that in a D batch, you are getting 12 months of the curriculum with 2 months in between as a time where you can, if you want, do an internship. Okay. Whereas in the J batch, you are starting in September and in next 10 months, you will have 5 periods and that's it. Like there will be no time in between for an internship, right? So why they recommend finance people to do D batch? Because PEVC or investment banking firms requires you to do an internship with them. They will judge you there and then only they will recruit you, right? So it's very rare if you are getting into IB without an internship. But there are always workarounds. A lot of people, what they have done is once they complete their course in J batch, like in May, July, then they do an internship and then they get an offer from them to start immediately. So that can happen as well. But again, it's a risky option, right? Like you're not working full time in a hope that, yeah, you will get a job after doing an internship. So it's a riskier choice. So that's why people recommend you to join D batch.
Thanks, Rajat. Also, yeah, I mean, just in general, people have bias towards January intake over September, but there's no difference. It's just the internship that like 2 months break that you get, because it's a very fast-paced program. For those who want to explore a little bit with INSEAD, probably they should go for the Jan intake, because it gives you that space, the breather to play around.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll just it'll just rush you past, and you won't even know it's done.
Exactly.
That's what's gonna happen. Okay, we can take 2-3 more questions quickly. There's a question around looking at the current market scenario. What steps can one take during an MBA, or is this process of applications to maximize opportunities to shift? I think what they want to know, what steps can they take during or while at the business school. So yeah, Rajat, also an advice for Saloni while she's there. So I think that
Definitely.
yeah,
I mean,
great.
yeah, like be very clear of what you want to achieve during an MBA. If it's a job, start preparing for it now. Once you get an admit, start preparing for it. Like if you want to join consulting, start working on a case prep, start working on a fit interview, start networking with people right now, right? Just joining the college or being in Fontainebleau is not going to change anything, right? As soon as you get an admit, you are part of INSEAD now. So even if you reach out to people, they will respond to you. So you can use these 6 months to your advantage. So do that. That is the one of the best advice I can give anyone. And second one is that be very focused on what you want to do. I've seen so many people, as I told you, as you get into INSEAD, you get so much FOMO. Okay, you want to do everything that there is, but prioritize. That's the one quality that you need to learn in INSEAD. Again, the whole circle after 1 hour. You have to prioritize, right? If it's consulting, if it's finance, if it's tech, if it's startup, whatever, right? Prioritize one thing. If you try to get into everything, you will be sending an application every day of INSEAD, and you will not be able to get in anything. It's better to focus on one thing, do your best, network, and get in, instead of like putting your hands everywhere.
Thanks, Rajat. I think we can close it by the campus discussion, because they were asking like how many campuses does it have. I think people also have a lot of confusion, like do they have to apply to different campuses? How does it work? So probably I think that'll be a good closure to the session. So Saloni, Rajat, both of you can.
I think Saloni can do that.
I think you should. Yeah.
I mean, for INSEAD, I know that there's Singapore and Fontainebleau. I heard that they've just opened the Abu Dhabi one as well. So not too many reviews on that, but a few people have said that obviously it's just as good and just as exciting. I see that like for most of the people, it comes down initially. Of course, you want to start with either Fontainebleau or Singapore, but you also have the option of switching in the middle and moving campuses. It essentially comes down to, I think you would choose Singapore if you are more inclined to stay in the Asian subcontinent and work here, because your recruitment works better that way. And if you're in Fontainebleau, you'll probably, a majority of your applications would be then in Europe, in UK, or leaning towards US, right? So you might end up choosing your campuses that way. Of course, there are some electives that are different on campuses, but there isn't a difference in the level of education that you receive. So you can apply to either one of them. For HEC, I'm not sure how many campuses are there, but there are multiple campuses too, right? I don't know about that.
It's just Paris, but there's one in Canada.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, they're two.
Okay. It's a very different system. So
yeah.
Just one thing to add what Saloni mentioned. It is one school. It doesn't matter where the campus is, right?
Yeah.
You will be studying the same thing anywhere, right? So forget that it has two campuses when you're applying. It doesn't matter. You cannot, whatever you will put in, I am 100% sure they will adapt and they will give you that choice. So forget that they have 3 campuses for now. Just apply to INSEAD, and then you can think about it later when you get an offer.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter to you right now at all.
Yeah, so just get in and then do that research and that maths and calculation, which geography where do I need to start or end. I think you'll get some points that you'll be bidding for campuses later. So that's how it works. I think it was a great session, and thanks for the lovely audience to be hanging around to the end. Thanks to you guys. Thank you, Rajat. Thanks, Saloni. It was a very insightful session. I hope you all enjoyed it.
Amazing. So one last thing I will say, like, if you have any other questions, do reach out to Pariti or me, like on LinkedIn or something, and yeah, like I will be happy to answer that to you. Okay. Have a great day, guys, and best of luck. It's just almost 1.5 months now to insert.
The corner. Yeah. All right. Thanks. All the best, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye.